Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into technology careers after college. My guest today is the CEO and president of Velocity. His name is Darek Hahn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I actually went to San Diego State University out in California. I was born and raised there. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer. I went in my late 20s, so I have did the working full-time, go to school at night gig, which was a challenge, but also actually got me my first job because my boss said if anybody can do that kind of work, he thought I'd be a good worker.
Oh, so in high school, was it something where you just wanted to go to work and not to college first, or is that how it all began for you?
In all honesty, I was a little bit of a juvenile delinquint, so I didn't do great when it came to school. When I was in high school, I was more interested in sports and having a good time. And then in my early 20s, I had gone to junior college off and on, had taken classes here and there. I'm a big proponent of junior college because especially we didn't have a lot of money. And so it was fairly cheap then. I don't know how cheap it is today. But junior college was a great avenue for me to not really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to get a degree. And so I went for actually almost 8 years to junior college, off and on. A class here, 2 classes there, tried a lot of different things. I even took a couple of architecture classes, took classes on business management, technology. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I finally figured out what I wanted to do. And when I decided what I wanted to do, I went to one more semester of junior college and then transferred to San Diego.
Wow. So how many years at San Diego State were you
it took
at?
about 3 years to get through because I was working full-time.
Okay, so you did 3 years there. How was San Diego University?
I'd say the only thing I missed out on was a lot of the fun that kids do, right? Because I was in my late 20s, I was working full-time, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time on campus during the day. I did do some of the sporting events and things like that, but San Diego is San Diego, so I was able, my upper division elective in San Diego before I graduated was advanced scuba diving.
Oh.
So, you know, it's the town and it's the place. So the school in general, I'm happy that I went there. I think it was the right place for me. And graduated when I was 31 and got a job in New Jersey.
Wow. So that's my next question is how do you go from graduating to becoming the CEO and president of Velocity?
Well, that's a bit of a journey.
All right. So we got a little bit of time.
All right. So I graduated in May of '98, and my company that I was working for as a temp actually was relocating to New Jersey. There's a research division in San Diego, a development division in Fort Worth, Texas, and the parent company in France.
Wow.
And so they were combining the R&D to a new R&D center here in New Jersey. I had done a little bit of work on that with my boss, but I was getting ready to leave. School was ending. My temporary job was over, and he gave me some work for the transition. And I said, well, I'm leaving next week unless you want to take me with you. And he said, let's talk about that. And I went, uh-oh. I'd never been to New Jersey. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but thought about it over the weekend, thought about what kind of salary I'd want to make if I moved. I'd obviously want to get a trip out here to see what it was like to live in New Jersey. And when I came back to work on Tuesday after Memorial Day, I graduated, and he said, here's what I'm going to offer you. It was exactly the salary I'd picked. And he said, and by the way, you can go out next week to New Jersey, see what it's like, make sure you're happy with it. Here's the job I would like for it, which was actually in facilities. It was not in IT. It was to do the whole relocation and build out a new R&D center. It was to manage that project. And so I flew out here, and to be honest with you, I landed, and I live in Cranberry now. I didn't then, but I drove through Cranberry on my way to the office site where they had already picked the office and thought, it's not a bad place to live. And it's a lot greener than California. California's probably brown, but people don't realize that.
Sure. A lot of heat.
Oh yeah, especially right now. So I took the opportunity. He let me come out here. I did that job for 2 years, built out this R&D center, and while we were finishing the R&D center, another company that was a spin out from Sarnoff, that was a technology company, was looking for somebody to help them build out their new production facility, which was right across the street from where we were at.
Wow.
And so I took that opportunity to move. And in that job, I was there for 5 years. We built out a production facility for laser diodes, a company called Princeton Lightwave. They ended up selling off part of that business. I stayed, and in that transition of the sell of part of the business, they asked me if I would take over IT because I had managed IT that had always been reported to me for some reason in facilities. I think because I had some knowledge of it. For a startup, you kind of take over whatever
Sure.
you have knowledge. So I went and got my certifications, started to do a lot more IT tech work. And when we moved to this other space, and after about 3 years, realized one, I needed to leave the company and go to something new, and two, that I didn't want to be a tech. That IT tech can be it's a great place to start because you learn a lot about technology.
Yeah.
But there are people who are really good at troubleshooting, and I'm not one of them. And so I left there, went, took a job with a biotech kind of startup out of Ithaca. They had relocated from Ithaca to New Jersey. I was their senior operations manager. I was responsible for technology, facilities, production. We did some biotech production. Did that job for 2 or 3 years. The company ended up getting closed by its parent company. Moved to a nutraceutical company where I did operations, which included all of our call centers and e-commerce website, et cetera. And then I hired the company I'm at today to do my internal IT, and got to know them pretty well. And when I decided it was time to leave that startup, they asked me if I'd do a couple projects for them, which turned into a full-time job.
Wow.
Which then, over a 3-4 year period, maybe 5 years, I was trying to decide if I wanted to stay. It was really a lifestyle company for the previous owners. But I liked the people, I liked the technology, I liked what we were doing. I thought there was an opportunity there for something that was missing in our industry. And in the midst of all of that, in the background, didn't know the owners were actually looking to be sold. So a group of investors came in and bought the company. And in that process, when they got to know all of us, they asked me if I'd like to lead it. And so I took over as CEO 3 years ago. We needed to do some restructuring of the company. It was not in good state. They had lost a big contract, the one they had lived off for 20 years. And so we restructured, took about a year and a half, and then about a year ago, we rebranded the company as Velocity. It used to be called Dynamic Strategies, and really put in place what we're excited about now, which is a new way to look at IT technology management. So you usually hire somebody to come in and manage your internal IT. A lot of people do that without any knowledge of IT. So they've got this company over here that's doing IT for them. They don't have any understanding of IT, and they kind of just say, hey, everybody's doing Office 365, Microsoft, right? We want to move there. And so the company says, okay, we can move you. The company isn't giving them any leadership. So our whole motto is IT leadership, IT planning. We do a roadmap for every one of our clients. We're engaged with the business. What are they really trying to do as a business? Where are they trying to go? What do they want to accomplish? How can technology actually be a value add versus just a cost center?
So from all of the experience that you've had, they're all startups pretty much that you've worked with. So you're taking that experience and now giving it to the clients that you're utilizing to say, this is how you grow your business with IT.
Yeah. And the great thing is my partner, who is the biggest investor, he came in and he comes from big pharma. So he looks at it from a whole different level. He's looking at it from big corporate level and what you need to do to be at that level. So we can now talk little steps. You know, when you're a small company, you need to do this. When you're a bigger company, you need to do this. And, you know, as you grow, these are the things you add on. So it's a really nice mix of talent in our team.
So now, to relate it to colleges, there are a lot of IT people that are taking IT in college to graduate and go into IT. What are some of the things that you do at your company that you utilize some of these college graduates coming in?
So we're mostly an infrastructure company. We do the physical stuff, whether it be cloud or networking or even end user support. So a lot of what we do is really at the base level. And we a lot of times say we need certifications more than we need college degrees. We're just typically that kind of company. But all of our partners are the ones that need the people with college degrees. So those are the developers, the application developers, the integration specialists. If I had one thing to tell people today, if I were to go back and I really wanted to be an IT person, I would be an API developer. APIs are application interface, programming interface. So because we're going cloud and everybody's going to these cloud solutions, almost every cloud provider has what they call an open API. So the data that comes out of the cloud, if you have 3 different cloud applications, they don't talk to each other. And if you don't integrate them, you don't get the data, real management of all the data. So if you can integrate them, and that's what those specialists do, is integrate those the different cloud providers. But
So now, how do students get certified in those different things? Do they have to go to different schooling, or they can pick it up in college?
So I believe some of the colleges, especially junior colleges, will offer certifications in networking or end user support or server management or virtualization management. Those are the type that we're looking for. We have a couple interns that we've used that have now become full-time employees who liked that field, they tend to be people that like to touch stuff. And then you have once you get into the application development, the API development, you start to get into more college degrees. I think you can still get certifications. And there's the other schools that are more trade school oriented that are offering those.
Yeah, so can you give an example of what type of positions are available in IT for students? Can they range from entry level all the way up to senior level IT people?
Yeah, so I would start with, depending on what you want to do. If you really like I said, I'm not a troubleshooter, but if that's something you love and you're passionate about it, and you like fixing problems,
yeah.
There's, getting a network certification or a security certification, something where it's day-to-day operations, kind of tactical. This is not talking to this. How do I get it to talk to each other?
Right.
Those are really important jobs. If you want to get into management or move higher up, I always say that the one thing that's lacking in IT right now is a real business sense. Mm-hmm. A lot of IT people are real technical in nature, but they don't understand what the relation of that technology to the business.
Yeah.
I've had multiple clients I've worked with where their IT person who was incredibly good at IT was making business decisions, which were not good. And they weren't trained in that. But because the company, the way they've grown up, the company loved the person, they kept giving him more responsibility, but they were still technical in nature, and that's what they were good at. And unfortunately, you see this a lot, where that person ends up being put in a position to fail. So if you can get some business training, even a minor in business, that will benefit you immensely.
So now these companies that you deal with, that are your clients,
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of the services that you help them with, is finding IT people for them?
So we do have some that will do that. We typically say the best solution for a company is to hire a company like ours, and hopefully they provide that kind of IT leadership where they're bringing partners to the table that make sense for your business and they're engaged in your business. And at some point you're going to grow to a size, it's usually in the 200 person range, where you have such a breadth of stuff going on from a technology standpoint that you really need somebody internal that's more strategic in their thinking. Mm-hmm. We try to convince companies that they tend to want to have a body on site. Bodies cost money.
Sure.
You'd be better off paying somebody like us less, because it doesn't cost you as much to have a company like us, and spend more on the more senior person. So you have a CFO type person in your IT department, the director or something, who's really strategic in their thinking. They're not doing day-to-day fix-it stuff. They're really thinking about, how does IT going to benefit the company? How are we going to grow the company with IT? And their typical management is up more than down.
Really?
So that is actually the hardest thing in IT today, is that it's changing because the generations are moving up. 10 years ago, it was IT couldn't get a seat at the table. Now that IT is getting a seat at the table, because most of the people in the workforce and senior management have all had a computer their whole career. Mm. And so they see the value of having that computer and have it working.
So now you talked about cloud. Mm-hmm. Can you give people out there, because not everybody's IT knowledgeable, what can you tell people about how the cloud works? What's going to happen for the future of the cloud? Is everybody going to be using this per se cloud?
So first I'll start with the best marketing gig ever was whoever came up with the cloud, because it's not. There is no cloud. There's a bunch of servers in a data center somewhere, and most times multiple servers in multiple different data centers that have all that data on them. So it's not really a cloud. It's just hardware that you don't own, and you're renting space on it. So there are different versions of that. There's private cloud, which is basically somebody owns it. It's only in one data center, maybe in two data centers, but you can almost go touch that hardware. Mm. There's public cloud, which is more the Amazons, the Microsoft Azure, the Google Cloud, that are all multi locations, and you're not going to touch that hardware ever.
And that's
They're
for like
never gonna let you
personal
in.
use for like just people with just a computer?
So it depends. So Google Cloud's a good example. A lot of people, especially younger people, have Gmail accounts. In Gmail, they're using the Google suite of Google version of Microsoft Office,
Right.
Google Docs. That's a public cloud that you can use. I've used it. I have an account. I can share docs with other people. It is really built for personal use more than corporate use. Corporations are starting to migrate to it because the younger generation has used it. It's lacking in the controls that you typically have in a corporate environment. But it's getting there. So corporate environment, you have Microsoft Office 365, you have their OneDrive, which is the version of Google.
So do they have like a public cloud for corporations as well?
Sure. So Microsoft Office that's Microsoft Office 365. That is basically what we used to do on-premise, they're doing in their data center. That's
Gotcha.
all it is. There's just the connectivity becomes more important. Whereas you used to have it in office, you would sit in your office and connect directly to it. Now you're connecting out to some data center somewhere. So there's all kinds coming out. And then you have beyond that, you have cloud applications. So you have something, if you know what ERP systems, which are called Enterprise Resource Planning. So these are applications that run the business from start to finish. So when somebody's working on a client and trying to work on a business solution, a sale, there's called a CRM, Customer Relationship Management. That'll be the front end. So somebody signs off on a quote. Now it goes into the system, it goes to accounting does the invoice, it also goes to production. Production now runs through production. At the other end, it's shipped and received and billed, and everything is all through one
So you
ERP
have
system.
companies like Salesforce and things like that.
So Salesforce is the CRM on the front. This is where that API integration I'm talking about. So you might have another application, there's a bunch of them out there, Acumatica, NetSuite, they're all cloud-based accounting softwares, that now you need to integrate that, because once I close that sale, what happens? Now, do I have to re-enter it into this system? If I have to re-enter it, what happens? People make mistakes, you have bad data. So if you can integrate those two, and then you might have, let's pick small company, QuickBooks. QuickBooks is an opportunity. There's a bunch of smaller accounting packages out there.
Correct.
And it might integrate with something on the back end where you have a warehouse management system. Now you need to integrate to that so the data, the whole point we try to promote is you want to get people's fingers out of it. The less you have people putting data in, the less chance of mistakes.
So that's where your company comes in, is it migrates all of that, it integrates everybody all together.
Yeah. So we do some of that work. Sometimes it's our partners. It depends on how big the plan is, because one of the things is you can't be all things to all people.
Right.
So we tend to think of ourselves as kind of the general contractor of IT. So we're at the client every day. We're engaged with them regularly. They may want to put in a accounting system. Well, when they put that accounting system, they may need a partner to come in. We may need a partner to come in with us to do that implementation. But the partner's going to leave at some point, and we're going to still be there. So we tend to take over management of the day-to-day operations, and we keep a relationship with that partner. If we have any issues that are beyond our scope, we can bring the partner in to fix things. Or if there's an integration that we don't have experience with, we can bring a partner in to do that integration.
So now, do these companies, do they pay by computer? Do they pay by employee? How does it all work at
So
that
it depends
level?
on the provider. We do ours kind of a mix. It depends, because not all companies are the same. So you could have an e-commerce company that has a really big back end, because they have this web presence, and they might have multiple servers that are in the cloud that they have to manage and monitor and make sure they're up all the time.
Yeah.
Versus a engineering or marketing company that might have one or two servers either in-house or in the cloud, that they don't really have a big back end. They're more important than the front end user support. So we do ours, we do a price per user for the end user support. That includes monitoring and managing and maintaining and a call center they can call for issues. And then back end, we do it based on how many servers they have. Are they virtual? Are they physical? Virtual means they're either in the cloud or,
Right.
I can go to a whole virtual discussion, simplifying that discussion. But depending on if they're physical. If they're physical, we have to monitor the box, a piece of hardware. If they're virtual, we don't have to manage the hardware, so it's less cost.
Gotcha.
So
now, how do you how do people find you that own businesses? How do students find you if they're interested in working for a company like yours? How do they look for you?
well, you can find us on the web at Velocity without a Y. It's capital IT at the end. It's VelocityMSP.com. Managed Service Provider is what that stands for. They could email me directly, dhahn@v-msp.com. Or heck, they could call me, 609-642-1337.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And then once they get in contact with you, they can discuss any of the issues that they might have and
Sure.
things of that sort.
Sure.
Right. So you're a president that stays involved and works on the bottom end as well as, I guess, negotiating all top end meetings and
Yeah,
that sort.
I'm mostly involved in sales. That's my job, and I have an operations person who's really the day-to-day operations, and a lot of times I'll bring them to client meetings because they want to know who they're going to be working with. I have a real simple sales philosophy: is if I can't help you, then I shouldn't be your partner, right? Sure, I want to make money, and I'm trying to build my business, but the truth is, if I'm not helping you, then it's not helping anyone. And our biggest struggle is really helping people understand technology in a way that supports the business. So the fact that I've worked in a bunch of startups, that my partners worked in big enterprise businesses, that we can bring kind of a different mindset to the discussion is, I always tell people, I want to know what your technology is and what you have, but I really don't care about it. Mm-hmm. What I do care about is, where are you going as a business? What do you want to accomplish? And then we can talk about, does that technology match what you're trying to do? Because a lot of times it doesn't match. I have a client in Nashville that we've done a whole evaluation of their systems and found that they were spending in excess of $150,000 a year, it's a larger company, on infrastructure that they could have been spending on developing a better website, which was important to them because they have a web presence and they're actually selling something on the web. But because of the way they had grown up in the infrastructure and how things had developed in the company, the person that was in charge was more of a developer, and he just kept pushing the technology off onto somebody else, and they just kept charging him.
Wow.
And so the price kept going up, but they didn't see it. And so when we did our whole evaluation, we do this IT roadmap process, we take a look at all the financials, we look at all of what you're spending, and you could move all of this to the cloud, save yourself almost $100,000 a year, and spend that all on the development side. So now you're spending the money where you need to spend the money to grow the business. And we really take a look at that versus just how do we get you the best.
So what do you see as the future of IT? Well, what's coming down the road?
I think what's coming down the road is, this will talk about the virtualization concept, is that we're going to be, in honesty, I think we're not alone. There's a lot of people trying to develop a cloud office solution where you basically have no more, the only hardware you have in your office is your PC and your maybe a firewall to make sure you can connect to the world, but everything else is going to be in the cloud. Wow. So your servers, even your desktop might be a virtual desktop, and your PC really doesn't matter anymore. And you can even do your desktop on your phone. Wow. So the virtualization thing is fascinating to me because it's actually not as complicated as it sounds. Yeah. Basically, if you have a server, and one server in the past was one operating system and basically one server. You can only do one thing on it. Well, what happened is VMware and a few others, Hyper-V and a few others, developed a tool where you could have one server and have multiple virtual servers on it. Really? So it's a software, so it's not that complicated of a thought, right? Yeah. Now, not only do you have redundancy of all these servers, you beef up this thing and maybe you have two of them and they can talk back and forth and you make replications of them and there's all this extra stuff you can do. But it allows the server that's not being fully utilized to have some segregation and some security and things. You have different servers that are keeping things separate. But now what's transpiring is they've already figured it out. It's been there for years, but how do you do it with connectivity? Can you put desktops, they call it virtual desktops, just like you did servers. So now if I remote into a server that has my desktop, I no longer have the desktop on my computer, it's actually here, which has a whole layer of security that's so much better. If I have an employee that needs to be terminated, I shut them off here. They never get access from here, from their PC. So there's just a lot of pluses. Plus, from a company standpoint, now I pay a monthly fee and I don't have to pay for hardware. I've even thought, we've talked about it as a company should go to, at some point, a bring your own device, and I really don't care what PC you have. Wow. We'll give you $500 a year for a PC and you buy your own. And all we'll do is provide you this virtual desktop and access to all the servers and everything.
That
And you
is
can work
so
from wherever you
interesting.
want. Yeah.
That's fabulous.
I think it's going to really promote the work.
Where
from
do you
home.
see it a few years down the road, or is it going to happen tomorrow?
I mean, it's happening now. It's the adoption that's the problem, because people are so used to having that physical
Yeah, yeah.
device or it being in control. It really takes a different mindset from a company standpoint, because typically IT people don't want it because they're taking away their thing that they do.
Right.
That is the biggest struggle with IT, is IT people get used to what they do, and most companies, if you have one person and they're managing a whole boatload of stuff,
Yeah.
they don't want change,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you've rocked their world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they would never say that, and they're good people. But if you change something, now they've got to learn something new while they're trying to keep everything else alive. And it's just a nightmare for them.
Well, we're coming to the end of our show,
Okay.
and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students that are out there? What advice you want to give them about IT and the IT careers?
I guess my thing would be try a lot of stuff, because there's so much in the IT world. You have development, you have infrastructure like we do, you have API integrations, you have web development, you have web marketing that's now technology based. There's lots of things to try. And if you can get your fingers into different things, get some internships. We do internships during the summer, and some of our best employees are interns. My VP of Ops was an intern 20 years ago. So learning all the different avenues there are in technology, and above that, get a business, whether it's a minor or just some experience in business, because the people that have the business experience and understand technology from a business aspect are the really successful ones.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.